beautiful soul. Welcome to the Quantum Business Queen podcast. This podcast is a vortex for activating wealth, riches, and boss bitches. It is here that I teach multi-dimensional business. Our content will fall under 3 different categories: 5D quantum creation, 4D frequency alchemy, and the most potent 3D strategy. Every aspect of business that contributes to the creation of success is covered here. Plus, I will be personally interviewing the most amazing boss bitches that are at the forefront of the game, paving the way for money, magic, and magnetism in business. Let's get ready to activate all of that within you. Hey, beautiful soul. Welcome to this episode of the Quantum Business Queen podcast. This episode was inspired by a client session. And look, a lot of my podcast episodes, should I say, are inspired by life experiences, client sessions, etc. I tend to look at what is a common theme and then I riff on it because it's obviously something that's floating around out there in the collective. So today I'm going to chat to you about what happens when you price based on accessibility, something that we're all guilty of, including myself. However, I had this realization around how damaging it actually is. And I think it's a really, really important conversation to have. And so I literally, as I was speaking to a client, I literally pushed record on my voice note memos. So as we start the podcast, it is literally in the middle of a conversation I was having with a client. So it might start off a little bit clunky, but the juiciness, I promise you, is there. You are going to get some insane perspective shifts, and it's really going to put you in a place of sovereign energy when it comes to being a really powerful authority and a leader. And when you can stand in your authority and your leadership, this is where people will pay you because they trust you. As soon as you give away your authority, people automatically don't trust you. And if people don't trust you, they will not buy from you. And so pricing is linked to authority, which is linked to trust, which is linked to people wanting to buy from you. This is such an important piece, and it's such an important conversation to have. And I know can be highly triggering if we have lots of distortions around money. However, I'm happy to talk about it anyway, because I know if it's triggering for you, then we get to heal this and we get to shift this out, because newness is awaiting, beautiful soul. So without further ado, here's an insight into a conversation I had with a client around pricing and me riffing on it all. And I hope it serves you the way it served her. Money is an energy. And when we price ourselves thinking we're doing it because we're being a good person, because we're accessible, we're actually projecting limitation onto people. Money is an energy. So when we can expand into the knowing that people are limitless when it comes to their ability to call in money, we therefore need to help them break through that programming of I don't have enough or I can only afford this much. So I want you to start thinking that way and charging what your sessions are worth. Don't charge based on what you think will make you accessible. Because this is how you expand through the realms of consciousness in terms of calling lots of money in. So this is going to be super important in how you're actually going to activate people through charging more. So those same people will be able to call the money in, and all of a sudden it will start showing up, and they'll then realize that this isn't just a game of playing with the present day limitations. This is a game of playing with how they get to expand to receive and then pay you what your sessions are actually freaking worth. So we need to erase that old programming around accessibility and thinking you're doing a good thing and you're helping humans. We got to go beyond. That's a matrix plugin. We got to go beyond that. We got to go into the subconscious realm of being able to activate humans into creating, receiving, and expanding into more, and then paying you what they're worth. Guess what's going to happen then? You're giving them permission to do the same thing and to stop being accessible, but then to expand into the energy game of what money actually is, and then the ripple effect upon ripple effect upon ripple effect. So we got to go deeper when it comes to the money game and the charging game, because it is an energy game. Truly. And it's so funny because my beautiful spiritual people like you all you want to do is good by people and you want to help, but it's so sneaky how you can get plugged into that programming of limitation when it comes to charging, thinking you're being a good person by making yourself accessible. But what you're actually doing is reinforcing program of limitation. And we do this by projecting limitation. So we're reinforcing the programming of limitation through projecting limitation. So we're saying, well, I think I will make myself accessible by charging a couple $100. And maybe you're doing that when you're sitting in the energy of accessibility, you're actually sitting in the energy of undervaluing. Accessible means that you haven't priced based on the value you're offering. You've priced based on projections. I want you to let that sink in for a second. When you are pricing based on accessibility, you are not pricing based on value you're offering. You are pricing based on perception. Because what is accessibility? Accessibility is something that you're projecting. And so if you start projecting limitations onto people, guess what timelines you continuously activate? So there's so much that happens energetically when you think about what pricing is to you. So instead of pricing based on your own limited projections, if you are pricing based on accessibility, you need to price based on expansive value. What feels like an aligned trade? What feels so delicious where you can say, it costs this much to work with me because I'm going to give you this transformation and this exchange feels powerful. So accessibility pricing is so incredibly damaging because number one, remember accessibility is just a projection that you have created. Who really defines accessibility except for you? And the accessibility has an undercurrent of scarcity because you're saying, my clients don't have enough, so I have to undervalue myself to make myself accessible for people. We don't want to have that energy interwoven into your offerings. Instead, we want to have an empowered frequency of a transformational value exchange. When you stand in your sovereign energy and you back what you have to give, you back your transformation with an aligned, powerful price, then you are automatically enhancing your client's experience. There's nothing worse than undervaluing yourself because what you're doing is you're allowing that energy exchange to be riddled in the frequency of undervaluing. So automatically clients are not going to value you. You are actually not valuing yourself. Clients are not going to value their journey properly. And so there's so much damage that is caused when you price based on accessibility. You again are then teaching other people to do the same thing. Make themselves accessible, undervalue their offerings, undervalue their gifts, activate the timelines where people are not empowered to be able to call money in because you're already projecting scarcity on them, thinking that they need you to be accessible to them. Instead, go the other way. You need to take a strong stance and value yourself, value what you have, value your transformation, value your time, value your offering. Interweave everything you do with value, and automatically you are going to create more authority. You're going to create more respect. You're also going to create more transformation because consciously and subconsciously, when you have an offer and the pricing is potent because it is so aligned with the transformation and the value that you are giving, then people show up. They're backing themselves with their own money. They are automatically invested in every single aspect of the word, invested monetarily, invested in their own transformation, invested in terms of their time that they're going to commit in order to get this transformation. However, if it's accessible, they think they're getting some sort of discount or some sort of deal by working with you. Automatically, they do not take the journey as seriously. Pricing is so important when it comes to your containers, when it comes to positioning, and when it comes to anchoring into your own authority. The other thing, speaking of authority, that can happen is if you undervalue yourself and you price based on accessibility, you undermine your own authority. And I've spoken about this in previous podcasts where, I've sought out mentors and I've come across these amazing people online who have all this credibility and all this life experience. And I told the story of how I watched this ex-military special forces officer. I watched an interview with him on Gaia. And in fact, man, he was featured in like 20 different Gaia episodes. And if you don't know what Gaia is, it's like Netflix for spiritual people. Anyway, and he's basically like a military intel officer. He was basically picked by the military to help with like disclosure. And so this guy was also trained by the military to access his intuition, to do remote viewing and all these crazy things. So like the military's all over this stuff, right? Like they know what's going on. They know how powerful us humans are. And so this guy has had years of experience in terms of being in the military, being trained psychically by military programs. And he is, has 20 plus episodes on Gaia, and he has his own program on how to like open up intuition and do remote viewing and all these crazy things. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, I need to learn from this man. And immediately I went to his website and I looked up his programs, and it was like, I think it was like $30. And so maybe his intention was to make his products, make his offerings accessible to as many people as possible, which is great. I love those intentions. However, immediately it took his credibility and authority away, and I didn't want to buy his program. I thought, why would I invest $30? Because my time is so precious. If the value of the knowledge and the transformation that he's offering, if he's putting a price tag of $30 on that, that is not worth my time. That is exactly what that is the thinking process that I went through when I saw what he was charging for that program. And it's highly damaging, highly, highly damaging for people who want change and transformation and to go on a potent journey. The price needs to match the value. So I would invite you to get rid of the scarcity programming around accessibility. Ultimately, here is the thing, right? Knowledge is everywhere. So if you're worried about people not being able to get information or not being able to change people's lives because what you're offering is too expensive or whatever the projections are, because remember, these are just projections. Here's the thing. If people really wanted to change, the knowledge is everywhere. Information is everywhere. They could easily Google or jump onto YouTube or do whatever. They're not paying you for information. They are paying you for transformation. They are paying you for accountability. Knowledge is not power anymore. Knowledge is freely sourced everywhere. It is only power when it is used properly. And so ultimately they're paying you to be by their side to assist in their transformation. They're not paying you for the knowledge. So don't worry. Don't be in that scarcity mindset that they're not going to be able to access this anywhere, that they're not going to be able to get access to these precious resources. The truth is, if they wanted it, they would figure it out. They would figure it out. And I know this is triggering because, we've all been in places of scarcity and it's hard and it's tricky, but you get to decide your way through it. You get to decide your way into making more money. You get to decide your way into being abundant. However, if you buy into the same limiting stories that your clients are buying into when it comes to scarcity and monetary transactions, you continuously perpetuate them. So you get to be in an empowered stance that this is what I'm worth. This is what the value is behind this. This is what I get to charge, and then activate that subconscious assumption that they get to step in their power and create and call in and decide that the money will manifest itself in order to be able to work with you and go through that transformation with you. This is the place of an empowered stance. So I hold strong in my pricing, knowing that the right people will come, the right people will decide their way out of scarcity because it is a decision. I do not perpetuate those timelines for them by making myself accessible and projecting assumptions that they can't decide, that they are not an empowered being, that they are not sovereign, and that they have to be stuck in that timeline. Instead, I hold my stance of sovereignty, of value, of transformation, and I allow people to meet me there. This is the first step in change. You allow people to meet you at your standards. your heights, where you've been able to raise yourself up, because that's how they change. That's how they break through their own barriers. But if you bend to meet them at their standards, their distortions, their own projections, their own programs, how are they going to learn? How are they going to learn? Money is the biggest carrot that you dangle in front of your face, or dangle in front of your client's face, that will force them to want to change. When you go on the business building journey, it is one of the biggest healing journeys, because every block and distortion, every program, every story comes to the forefront for you to notice. And the biggest and the first transformation that happens with my clients is when they say yes to an investment, because that is really scary. To invest $14,000 Australian AUD or $9,000 USD to work with me and the Business Academy is scary. But when people step up and say yes to that, I promise you that is the first transformation, because they've had to break through a lot of programmings and a lot of barriers in order to trust that they will transform. And those people who do trust themselves and they make that investment, their businesses go crazy. They're making 14K back in a month. The best return on investment ever, right? However, in that journey, I do not bend. I hold my value. I hold my standards, because I know if my client can sort through enough of their own distortions in order to meet me there, to pay the 14K to work with me, Australian, or 9K USD to work with me, then I know they're ready. They've invested in themselves. I know they're ready to invest in their time, and I know they're ready enough to sort through their own shit in order to get the most powerful results. But that does not happen if I waver in my standards, if I waver in my value, because then I would be wavering the transformation, and then that also would project onto them, wavering my belief in their ability to create money, decide that they get to be abundant, create wealth, create a wildly successful container. And I don't waver in what I know my client's potential is. That is one of my biggest jobs when you come and work with me. I am your pillar of divine knowing. If I can't feel into your vision, and if I don't have my own divine knowing in and of itself that vision is there for you, then we can't work together, because ultimately that is my job. I am your pillar of divine knowing, and I hold up the standards that it requires in order for you to anchor in that timeline. And it starts with pricing. So do not price on accessibility. It is wildly damaging, and you are wavering in your own standards. You are wavering in your own value, and you are wavering in your own authority. And in fact, you just wouldn't trust a mentor that'd be like, okay, let me discount this, or okay, let me make this more accessible to you, because they've already undermined their own value already. And this is a subconscious thing that happens already. It takes the potency out of the journey. And so what I want you to do is work on building the muscle of your own inner value. And I got this question the other day in the academy where somebody said, if I want to up my prices, what do I do? And if you want to up your prices, it's all about value. It's all about all the different layers of value. It's all about valuing yourself and your own identity, continuously up-leveling your own identity. By the way, that is so important, because as you see yourself, others will see you. So you need to identify with that mentor who is a high value mentor. Associate yourself with people who see themselves as high value people, because you are the sum of the people you hang around. Add more value into your containers. Make your containers more valuable, so you feel just so delicious about when you are saying what it costs to work with you, because you know there's so much value oozing out of the container. Add more value to the transformation. Add more value to the client journey. This is not only how you build a business, how you charge more, how you crash through those income thresholds. It is also how you retain clients as well. So I'm always continuously up-leveling myself. I'm always continuously learning. I'm always continuously looking at my own client's journey and how I can enhance it, how I can pour value into it, how I can over-deliver so they are blown away by the experience, and how I can be there as a sovereign leader so they know that the transformation is done as long as they show up for themselves. This, for me, is my definition of value, and it is something that I will never waver in, and it is something that I always hold strong to, because I know my clients will meet me there. I know they will. So, accessibility pricing, wildly damaging. And I think you can feel into the energy of it. It's so fucking powerful, isn't it? It's so powerful when you own your value. It's so powerful when you stand strong in it. It's so powerful when you help your clients decide their way through scarcity, decide their way through limitation. This is what changing lives is all about. It's all about this. And money issues and scarcity issues are linked to so many other wounds. So when you give people the opportunity to face those, they heal so much within themselves. And then the ripple effect takes over. So when you are looking at yourself, when you are looking at revving everything up in your business, this has to be a number one priority. How are you valuing yourself? How are you going to continuously uphold your standards to allow clients to meet you there? How are you going to enhance your client's journey? How are you going to pour more value into what you offer and into your containers? How are you going to do whatever you can to ensure transformation for your clients? Think about that. And when you do those things and you hold value within yourself, you'll become magnetic. You can't not. You can't not. Anyway, beautiful soul, I'm going to leave you with that for today. I love you so much. And as always, I will see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening today, beautiful soul. I hope you got so much gold and were activated in such a way that you could step into your highest timeline of abundance and freedom, because it is more than possible for you. If that desire has been planted in your soul, it is so deliberate. If you wouldn't mind, please rate, review, subscribe to this podcast so that we can get this message into the hearts and ears of more amazing light beings across the world. I would love to continue this conversation with you, so feel free to get in touch on Instagram at sarah.tynan.quantumcoach. If you're a Facebook person, you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/Sarah Tynan International. And please don't ever forget, if your desire is there, it's because your destiny is there too. You just have to remember who you are. Bye for now, beautiful.